It is May 1796, and the forces of the coalition, the British Empire and the Austrian Empire, have aligned themselves to a common cause. The cause is to stop the forces of the French Revolutionary Republic in their tracks and to halt the spread of revolutionary ideas across the rest of Europe. The armies of the Austrians are strong, the navy of the British Empire is stronger still, and together they might be able to hold the French Republic in their own states, and in the meantime bring allies to join them in this vicious struggle against the spread of revolution across Europe. Welcome friends and gamers, my name is Jinx and we are playing episode number 2 of Napoleon in Europe. This is going to be a fun little board game. It's a solo YouTube war, but with audience participation. With that, I mean that the coalition forces, I'm going to take what they do under advisement by comments, by posts that people tell me what they should do in some sort of fashion. So if you guys are watching this video and see like, hey, you know what? The British Empire should make a landing over here and struggle in this front and do this, that, there, the other thing, then please feel free to suggest it. And if it doesn't throw the game, I will attempt to do something along those lines. I think it'll be kind of fun to do something like that. So basically a solo play but with our audience participation. So I made a mistake last turn in a major battle here occurring in Baden-Württemberg, and at the end of the conflict the Austrians retreated up north to Hesse-Darmstadt with the idea that they would combine their forces into one big clump. And now in the pursuit phase I rolled for my infantry as well as cavalry, but the way it should work is if there's an enemy cavalry present on the retreating side, then only the attacking or the winning cavalry roll and the casualties are taken off those guys. So in this conflict, only the cavalry rolled in the attack, if memory serves. Yeah, that's correct. Only the cavalry rolled in attack and they happened to miss. And so this situation that we see here now is the Austrian forces are quite strong here in Hesse-Darmstadt. Okay. So now it is the British and the Austrian turn. So one of the things that they lucked out last turn with was after losing the fight in Baden-Baden, they drew a card here, an action card, a random event, which is a royal marriage, which got them 2 political action points. And now they're going to spend them, the Austrians are going to spend them, and attempt to align the Russians or the Prussians, which are the most likely ones that can join their cause at this point. Now, I was hoping for some audience feedback in this regards as to who they should align. My thinking is the Russians have more forces, but they're a little bit further away. The Prussians are a little closer, but they're a little weaker, and they also economically aren't as strong as the Russian forces. But at the end of the day, my thinking was, well, you know, if we do align the Russians, it'll take them longer to get in the fight, whereas the Prussians will be immediately present, and perhaps they can cause some damage and join alongside with the Austrian forces. Especially since the forces that we have present here on the board are fairly equally matched with a slight advantage for the coalition forces. I think we're going to attempt to align the Prussians, and the idea there is if we align the Russians, then the French might happen to wipe out Austria, and then we'd be effectively defeated in detail, whereas this way they could kind of align side by side and fight the good fight. Okay, so we're going to attempt to align the Prussians using 2 dice 6, and we need to roll a 5 or less. So we'll bring us over here to this board here, rolling 2 dice, hoping for a result of 5 or less. That's a little on the high side. We have a number of 11, so pretty high stuff. Unfortunately, that costs them 2 political action points, meaning that it was unsuccessful. Now I'm going to modify this a little bit to say that every time that you manage to align to miss on a dice roll, it increases your chance on the subsequent roll. So for the Prussians, they've gone up by 1 on the side of this one, and it'll go vice versa for the French if they decide to attempt to align them. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's take a look at what the Austrians will do. So the Austrians are faced with the French force under Napoleon in northern Italy rather, and so they have a decent force here in Milan. They're going to stay in place though, because we have a plan with the British forces to help reinforce their position. Now up here in Hesse-Darmstadt in Germany, what we're going to do is we have a superiority of forces relative to the French here, and so we have an option of either attacking them or to wait until we have stronger forces present. Now, I'm of a mind that attacking them might not be a bad idea. Let me just count up the forces present there. So this is all equal. Everything here is equal. Those are all present in the fight. But the actual extra stuff that we have is present here. So we have each two artillery, 3 infantry, 1 light infantry. That's the only difference there. So it'll be a tight battle right here. Is it worth going into the fight right now, or should we hope to strengthen our resources and subsequently do a little bit of a stronger attack? I think the forces that we have present here is a sizable amount. I think it might be worthwhile to actually make the attack against Baden-Baden and hope to crush the enemy in a fell strike. A superiority of only, let's say, 2 infantry is not that much, but it might be in subsequent rounds it might be a little tighter. Now, another idea we have here for the Austrian forces is to move to Bavaria and move our Bohemian forces to back them up in this position here. And by doing that, we actually would definitely exceed them in forces by a sizable margin. And so what would that do for the French? At that point, they're either faced with retreating away from the battlefield in general, or just going against steep odds. So that's a tough one. Ultimately, we don't really lose anything because none of this is territory that we have we have an alliance with, that we're not collecting production points for anything up here. So I'm of a mind that it might be worthwhile retreating everything to, or moving everything to Bavaria, and thereby the French are faced with a sizable army in front of them with nothing that they can do. So I think that's what we're going to do. Our forces here are going to move. We'll just move our battle marker here to Bavaria. And these are essentially just, these are present in that territory, but they're kind of like a token force to represent the map's not completely empty, just to color the map a bit more. And our Bohemian forces are going to join them in this position here. And of course I make a little bit of a mess of everything. And now I make a mess of the Prussian forces. Perfect. Okay, so now we have a sizable advantage in forces here in Bavaria. And I think what we're actually going to do is attempt to attack, or attempt to align Bavaria, because we still have 1 political action point available to us here. So we're going to attempt to align Bavaria with our resources here. And so I need to quickly refresh my memory on how that works. I think it's fairly simple. Annex region. You roll a dice. It's a minor nation. You roll a dice, and you roll a 5 or higher. The attempt is successful. It's a single dice, and we roll a 5 or higher. Now, it's not strictly speaking that. There's a little extra features that go into it. We get a +2 because we have 7 or more military units in the area. And we get a +1 because it's adjacent to a territory that we're annexing. Okay, so +3 on the dice. +2, so +2 on our dice roll. So we need 5 or better. 3, 4, 5. +2, so they managed to annex it. And we have now Bavaria is annexed to the cause of the Austrians. And I don't think they get any units out of the territory, but let me just quickly brush up my memory here. There's no resistance. Okay. I don't think they get any units out of it. Sometimes that's always the thing that they do. No, I don't think they get any units out of it. So, alright, so the Austrian income goes up by 1 to 27. The British are still at 28, so that's kind of the situation there. Bavaria is now in the hands of the Austrian forces, with a considerable force present as well. Okay, so we have also over here in Hungary, we're going to move 2 units out to Bavaria, just to strengthen our position here. Actually, to Illyria might be the better choice, just to strengthen our southern flank. And that's basically it for the Austrian forces. They've used up all their political action points. Their turn is complete with no battles occurring. And now for the British are somewhat of a more interesting position here. They have the Navy situation. Now the way the Navy works is you can do an amphibious assault against any coastal regions. The amount of units you can bring in is the amount of offshore units, offshore ships that they have present. So right now I could drop off 2 units in Gascony and Vendée. Now of course if the British do make a landing here, then militia do spring up, and also the militia in this circumstance would defend themselves at a +2 for all rounds of combat. So the militia would normally be a -1, so they'd be only rolling on 2 dice 6. They'd be rolling at 10s and up. but because there's an amphibious assault, so they get to go +2 on their dice rolls, so it'll be effectively 8 and up. So a decent amount, right? Decent amount on all rounds of combat. So they could do that, drop off a sizable force, but what we're going to do is going to reinforce our southern flank. Now, one of the things I should also mention is the French fleet here off the coast of Brittany. These 4 units can come out into this sea zone here, or in this sea zone in Bay of Biscay. So what we're going to do is we're going to strengthen this position here with 4 ships. With 4 ships, because the British ships roll higher on average than French ships. And these 3 ships are going to come out to the Gulf of Marseille. Over here, we're going to postpone any amphibious assaults for right now, and we have 5 ships we can drop off, and they're all going to drop off in Milan over here, and that strengthens our forces sizably so that perhaps the French are completely stymied. So we have a elite infantry, 2 regular infantry, a cavalry, and that's it. Now this fleet here is going to block the French from making amphibious landings in the rest of Europe. I am tempted to throw an extra ship up here just to really strengthen that position. That's 5 ships relative to 4 ships. The British ships do roll a +1. I'm going to just keep those 5 ships here off the Marseille. I think that would be the better course of action. And now we have a sizable force present. Now, what else do we have? Up here in Hanover, we have 1 unit. He's just going to hang out here, because why not? Yeah, I think that's all we do at this point. I think that ties up everything nicely enough. Yeah, I think that's sufficient. We have enough strong force down here reinforcing the southern flank. The ships are blocking any French from moving towards the rest of Europe. This fleet here is doing fine enough as it is. I think that's it for the coalition forces, and I think that would conclude their turn.